There's a family breakdown, I think, going on in society.
Well, everybody needs someone. They need that love, that care, that sense of security.
To be able to go through life knowing that there's a place for him.
Please adopt me. I don't know how anyone could not want to love her.
Honestly, I just want the three of us together.
I wish it was a life that other people have.
I just be wondering when is it my turn?
Good evening to you. Happy Memorial Day and welcome to our Place to Call Home special, It's All Relative. I'm Dawn Scott.
And I'm Laura Monteverdi. For the next half hour, as part of our National Foster Care Month, we share powerful stories from Arkansas communities, stories that are changing vulnerable children's lives.
And we begin in Searcy, where a young mom's addiction to drugs led her down a terrible path.
She lost her children to the system, but because of something so traumatic, it pushed her to ultimately find herself.
We're gonna win.
To imagine a life without her kids once seemed impossible for 30-year-old Jessica Leisure.
I love them. They're my world. I couldn't live without them.
But nearly a year ago, that impossible thought became a reality for the single mom.
There was nothing worse than, having my kids taken from me.
On July 16, 2018, Jessica's two daughters were removed from her home by DHS after she failed a routine drug test.
That was rock bottom for me. It was the worst. Going back to that moment in that day, I felt like a disgrace. I felt ashamed. It was a horrible moment.
Jessica's addiction to drugs started when she was a teen. She began abusing marijuana and alcohol before moving on to meth and heroin.
I was hearing voices. I had to get high every day. I stayed high. It got bad.
So bad, DHS had to step in. Her daughters, 7-year-old Elizabeth and 2-year-old Layla, were placed with a foster family.
In the car, we were all crying. That's when Layla started crying because she was like, what's going on? Mommy, you're not coming with us. It was very, very emotional.
Jessica left scared and alone.
Where are my kids going to go? What's going to happen to them? What do I got to do to get them back?
A young mom battling an addiction, now gearing up for a fight to get her kids back.
I made it my goal. If I was going to have my kids taken, I was going to be the best at it, pretty much. Not the best at not doing what they needed me to do, but getting it done in the fastest way.
So drug abuse is one of the leading reasons that children end up in Arkansas foster care. It is tough for so many people to understand that, but Laura has a personal experience with addiction.
I do. It was 3.5 years ago that I lost my boyfriend to a heroin overdose. And since then, I've made it my mission to educate people about addiction and end the stigma that comes with it. And what I want people to understand is these are not bad parents. But the reality is when you're using drugs, you're not being the best parent to your child, and getting help can be a decision that benefits both you and your child. And that's exactly what Jessica did. After the break, how she beat the odds and took control of her life for both her and her daughters. Before the break, we introduce you to a single mom whose 2 kids were removed from her home after she failed a drug test. But she made it her mission to get her kids back, fighting her addiction while also fighting for her family.
Come on, I'll let you go for mommy.
Looking back, it's been a long road for 30-year-old Jessica Leisure.
For me, having my kids being in the foster care system, which was very shameful for me, it was easy for me to want to stay clean.
On July 16, 2018, her 2 daughters were placed in a foster home, while Jessica was left to face her addiction.
I was afraid that they would end up in, a horrible foster home. You hear stories. You don't really hear about the good foster homes. You hear about the bad ones.
Layla.
But this was one of the good ones. Andrew Baker and his wife took Jessica's daughters in, caring for them as if they were their own.
They love them. They call them Mimi and Judah. You know, my 2-year-old loves her some doodah.
That is my name, and that is affectionately what I am referred to.
With her children being cared for, Jessica went to work. As mandated by DHS, she started taking parenting classes, began counseling, and signed up for an outpatient NA program.
I needed to have a job in an apartment. I needed to show that I could take care of the kids financially and have a house over their head. You know, I couldn't live at my mom's and have the kids come back.
One of the things that Jessica did that separated herself from the very beginning is that she hit the ground running in doing all the things necessary to see reunification with her kids. She was a mom on a mission.
A mom on a mission indeed. On December 21st, 5 months after her daughters were placed in foster care, Jessica received a phone call from her caseworker.
She called me and she said, okay, well, I have an early Christmas present for you. And she said, you're going to get the girls for Christmas. And I said to her, like, forever? And she said, yes, forever. I just dropped to the ground crying. She was like, stop crying. This is a good thing. I'm like, I'm crying happy tears.
Fast forward to today, Jessica works full-time at a hotel and lives with her daughters in a new apartment. In July, she'll celebrate 1 year in recovery.
Whoop, boop, 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 boop.
What were once just foster parents, now an extended family.
I plan to watch them all graduate from high school. If it's up to me, they're all going to graduate from college. Like, we're in this thing not just for today.
And so is Jessica, losing her kids, a difficult but needed lesson in order to find herself.
Your life isn't over when you have your kids taken. It's really just beginning, you know, and you're going to build yourself up to be a better you and a better mom for your kids or a better dad for your kids. I mean, looking back, I think I'd kick butt.
Jessica says she's grown as a mother and is more patient and present in her daughters' lives than ever before. Her kids still spend time with their foster dad, Doodah, who even watches them sometimes while Jessica is at work. And that support is key. And the mission of Sparrow's Promise Home in Searcy, it's a place for children to stay as an alternative to sleeping at DHS offices when they're removed from their homes. But it's also a place for families to visit with each other. Andrew Baker, or as you now know him as Doodah, serves as chairman of the board. He says one of his favorite features of the house is the table, a place for families, both biological and foster, to gather.
If we're going to see more kids going home, it's going to be a whole lot more time spent around a table to say, you know, we're in this with you. You know, we're not going anywhere. We're here to help. We really have a hope of this place that it's used to see more families reunified.
And though you just saw that happen with Jessica and her children, it isn't always the outcome. In Pine Bluff, 2 little girls were almost left up for adoption for the same reasons, but a selfless relative stepped in to help.
Come here, Val.
Carolyn Edwards is retired. She lives in Pine Bluff and she raised a son of her own who's now an adult. But a few years into her retirement,
oh, Val, you snoring.
2 bundles of joy showed up on her doorstep begging for love.
I had to do a lot of praying.
First came Tiana, her niece's child, then little Nevaeh, her cousin's baby.
They had drugs in their systems and alcohol.
DHS had taken them, each nearly placed up for adoption, at risk of getting lost in the system.
DHS just told me that she was going to take her. It wasn't anything, you know, they wasn't mean anything. It was just, you know, where you just got to go ahead and get her.
Edwards thought for a long while about what she should do.
I said, guys, we got this little bitty house. We don't have no room.
Ultimately, she said yes. Yes to both girls. It is now her they call Mom.
Yes, they do.
Mommy.
Where Mommy? Mama, Mommy.
But why did she do it? Even for her, that answer is still unclear, but she attributes it to her faith and to love.
The only thing I can say is love, support. And that's what we all need is love and support. And be there through thick and thin. God made a way because it wasn't me.
Now Tiana and Nevaeh's lives are changed forever because someone in their family stepped up.
No matter what, you have to, you have to stand by your family.
3, 2, 1.
They are looking for love just like we are.
As for Edward's niece and her cousin, she says she hopes they one day turn their lives around. Regardless, these girls are now hers.
And it'd be a different story if they got themselves together, and if they wanted to meet them, then the kids, I'm not going to keep them from them if they want to meet them, but they'll never leave me. They are mine. Hold your hands in there. You all right?
DCFS tells me 24% of Arkansas children who end up in foster care are eventually adopted by a relative. But they say if more family members intervene when needed, like Carolyn Edwards did, it would lift a big burden off the system. We'll be back with more after this. Right now, there are 4,326 children in Arkansas foster care. Why are these children coming into the foster care system? DCFS says primarily neglect and parental substance abuse, as you've heard throughout this broadcast. But one of our state Supreme Court justices is getting involved now. For Justice Rhonda Wood, it is a passion.
It's partly just societal. There's a breakdown of families, a breakdown in education.
Arkansas Supreme Court Justice Rhonda Wood is the chair of the court's Commission on Children, Youth, and Families. You say you witnessed families falling apart. In Arkansas specifically, what is causing that to happen?
I wish I had the magic. If I knew the answer, then I could probably provide the tool to correct it. Sort of the world we live in, and the family units are breaking down.
But Justice Wood is working to change that. Throughout her years on the bench, she's seen firsthand the impact of court decisions on families. How critical is it, in your opinion, to keep a child with their parent, to help that parent find the right tools needed to get their child back, for example, if their child is taken into foster care?
I really do think it's critical if there's any way that you can achieve that. That is a fundamental right to parent your child, and that relationship is fundamental. And so we have to figure out, just from a society standpoint, how to form that bond and give the parent the tool, because that child, I've seen it, when you take that parent away, there is something fundamentally missing from that child.
Are we doing a good enough job in Arkansas?
We're not, just to be honest, but I don't know anyone that is. I mean, we always have room for improvement. Until we can get enough foster homes that we can keep the school contacts, those teachers, those friends, the church contacts in the community, we aren't doing good enough. You don't know if you're making the right decision. You're traumatizing the child no matter what, whether you're leaving them in the home or taking them out of the home. So those are the decisions we live with, and that we have to make sure that we get them right really every time. We can't afford to get it wrong when we're dealing with children.
And some of those decisions leave children in care and eventually up for adoption. Every week on THV 11, we share stories of these children in need of forever families. On average, 50 to 60% of the children in these segments do find their forever homes. And these are children like young Princeton. He's an example of this. And we met him last November at the Museum of Discovery. He was with his foster mom that day, Kim Poteet. She explained that he'd suffered a lot of trauma, but with her love and stability, he flourished. Well, a family found him, and he is now in pre-adoptive placement. Poteet is helping with the transition, something that DCFS says is key to a successful adoption. And last Thanksgiving, we shared Javante, Jalen, and Jacobian's story with you. Such big personalities. They had our crew laughing the entire time. We shared with you that sibling groups are among the toughest to place. But tonight, we can share that a family came for these three, and they will be staying together. Javante, Jalen, and Jacobian found their place to call home. And 1 year ago, we introduced you to a little girl with special needs along with her baby brother, Kiania and Jabriel. That was their names then, but their adoption was finalized this month, and we get a peek into their new home now and their new life. May 2018 is when we first met this little angel, Kiania. Her foster mom, Ms. Deborah Israel, loved her big and fought fiercely for her well-being, fought to keep her alive.
Yay! I want her to have a family. that can appreciate where she's going and the fact that she's still here.
She and her brother Jabril needed a family, one that could keep them together. The odds were stacked against them. That was until they met Brock and Megan Waldo.
Fell in love with her.
The Waldos had already adopted Isaiah, a baby they'd first fostered. They also have 2 biological children of their own. As it turns out, though, they were actually searching for these 2.
I had a cousin with cerebral palsy, and I absolutely loved him, and that was my passion, and so that's what we were wanting. A kid who has the least likely to find a home. That was what we were looking for, a little girl with special needs, and she had a brother, and it made it great.
The Waldos immediately began the adoption process, and May 13th, it was final. Her name is now Vashti, which means princess in Hebrew.
I knew, like with a girl with special needs, I wanted her identity to be something strong. I didn't want her ever to look at herself in a negative light, so we picked a name that meant most beautiful princess.
And his name is now Josiah.
It means strong, unwavering.
Give me next.
And since Vashti and Josiah joined the family, nothing but progress. Vashti now walking, something doctors weren't sure would ever happen.
She's strong, she's determined, and she wants to keep up with her brothers and sisters.
The chances of somebody, number one, taking her were very slim, but the 2 of them together.
Yet the Waldos did, taking 2 babies out of foster care, giving them a place to call home.
A place that they can, go home to and call mom and dad and brother and sister. It's a huge blessing to them, but it's also a huge blessing to mom and dad too. There's kids out there that really need a second chance at life, and who knows where they would be.
The joy that they bring to our lives is unmeasurable. All of them, all 5 of them.
You might have noticed the red shirts that they were all wearing that night. They say, "We are the village." And the Waldos say they couldn't do it without the therapists, the teachers, everyone in the community who supports them. More of a place to call home. It's all relative after this. All this month, we shared with you stories of children who have yet to find their forever homes. We met Miracle at the Arkansas Governor's Mansion in the First Lady's Rose Garden. She is nonverbal and autistic, but she is incredibly loving. She loves flowers and twirling. Miracle is easy to love and needs stability and a forever family. And Tony, who is also up for adoption for yet a second time after his first adoption failed. He wants a family where he says he fits in, where he feels loved. When we celebrated his birthday with him, only the second time he says he's ever had a cake with candles on his birthday. How is this okay? How can we live in a world where children don't celebrate their birthdays, where families are falling apart, as you heard, where drugs have become more important than our youngest citizens?
We know a child needs their parents, but the reality is when you're doing things like drugs, you're not being the best parent to your child. And sadly, it's the children that end up paying, ending up in the foster care system.
This month is a time to recognize that we each can play a part in enhancing the lives of children and youth in foster care, to ask, what can I do to help? What can you do today to help? One thing we can do is this. We can all choose love. And here's an example of this. That's exactly what Louie, this little guy, wants for his birthday, which happens to be today. Oh. Louie, seen here visiting THV 11 recently, was an Arkansas foster child. He was adopted by the Schneider family, but he's been in hospice, yet he's still alive. He's survived longer than doctors ever thought he would. He turns 10 years old today, and his birthday wish for people to love each other, regardless of differing backgrounds or beliefs, or whether you're a foster child or not, just to love. Louie, this special is in salute to you from all of us. Happy 10th birthday, my friend. This broadcast is dedicated to you. Thanks for watching.